Good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome everybody. Welcome to today's presentation for the Demo Loan Community of Practice. My name is Marty Uxline with the AT3 Center, and our topic today is a product that you may or may not be familiar with called eSight. And our presenters are Samuel Peluso and York Barrington from eSight Eyewear. And today's presentation will run about an hour. And go ahead and go to the next slide. So our objectives for today for attendees to learn about the application of the eSight device for people with low vision or legal blindness at work, school, home, and outdoors, to identify the features of this next generation medical device, including those enabling mobility that sets it apart from its predecessors, to describe eSight 4 services, supports, and related costs, and to describe how eSight 4 fits into the ACT Act demonstration and lending programs. And jump to the next slide. So just a few reminders, we do have captions, so if you need the captions, just click on the CC icon down at the bottom of the control panel. If you have questions, enter them into the chat window, and just at any time during the presentation, and we'll address questions at the end of the presentation, but you can enter them just at any time during the presentation. Just a reminder about upcoming events, always check in at the at3center.net events page. We'll also be sending out registration links for webinars on the AT3 listserv, and also if it's related to Demo Loan, then of course on the Demo Loan Community of Practice listserv. We'll have, you'll receive a post-webinar survey, and so after the webinar, so please complete those when you receive them, and we'll also post the link for the survey in the chat bar. And for those surveys, we especially want to know about topics, other products that you would be interested in hearing more about for the Demo Loan community practice. And I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to, I think York, you were going first, York Barrington, and you're going to share your screen, and I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marty. All right, welcome everybody. Apparently I went the wrong way when I did my share screen. I'm gonna quickly talk a little bit about myself, Sam, eSight, and then we're gonna jump into meeting eSight 4. We're gonna do a quick demonstration. I say quick, but it's actually a little bit more than quick. And Sam will actually walk you through virtually what our device does, how it works, how it operates, and kind of give you that sense, you know, doing it remotely based on the environment that we're in. It takes a little bit of a different look and feel, but you can still get a good sense of all the things that our device can do. So to kick things off, just a quick introduction. My name is York Barrington, as Marty mentioned. I'm the director of sales. I look after all of our sales and support teams here at eSight. So that's right through from whether it's purchasing through, you know, an AT program or a distributor, or going direct from manufacturer. Once the purchase is made, the coaching and onboarding and all those post-sales services and support, technical support and that sort of stuff that we provide all of our clients. Those all fall within my group, and I'm lucky to have Sam with me today. Sam's my clinical account manager. Really, what it boils down to is Sam knows this device almost as much as the guys who made it, and that's why I have him here. Is there's nobody better on my team to know the product inside and out, to really talk about all the features and benefits. So that's us. eSight as an organization, I always like to talk a little bit about it and where it came from, and the fact that, you know, when eSight started, if you're not familiar with it, Conrad Lewis was our founder, and he had two sisters, and both sisters had Stargardt's, degenerative eye condition. And his theory was he was seeing all these technological advancements happening in the world out there, And he thought, with all these things happening and all these great advancements, why is nobody helping my sisters? And there's got to be something out there that I can do. And so, fast forward a couple of years, he went to university, became an electrical engineer, and started working on this idea of helping his sisters see better, see again, what have you. And his theory was, it didn't matter how big or small or comfortable or well it worked, as long as they could put it on and they could get that restorative vision or the corrective vision. And eventually he did. And, he had this scuba diving size helmet on their head, but they were able to see again and success in his mind. And now that he had that technological part done, it didn't matter. Now he could focus on shrinking it. It didn't matter how big that prototype was. And here we are 15 years later with the latest and greatest, the eSight 4. It is, as we'll talk about throughout here, a lot of advancements in taking what Conrad did all those years ago and making it even better now. So what we've done in eSight 4 is we built upon the clinically validated technology. We did a fairly robust medical study published in the Journal of Medicine 2 years ago, 3 years ago now. But our focus was maintaining that human-centric design, what worked with the device. And the reason that I talk about these two things is the next slide, you're gonna see just how much time we spent developing this. We started doing interviews in August of 2018, where we were engaging with the users. We were engaging with the low vision community, trying to determine what worked, what benefits they wanted to see, what things they wanted to do, how they wanted to use the device. So although this slide shows us having started work in August 2018, we really started it months before that in engaging and finding the right people to talk to and the people that we wanted to approach. So we spent time, doing these surveys. At the same time, our group of engineers started coming up with ideations on prototypes, figuring out what sort of a form factor was going to work. A lot of people said they wanted it smaller. And so, well, if we go smaller, what do we lose? We lose battery life, we lose technological advancements. Maybe you don't have a wireless, that sort of thing. So fast forward again, a couple months, January, we did a new study. March, we did more studying. February 2020 is where the real exciting stuff started for us. We actually had a device that we could put out into the community where people could actually try it. We had, functional, if you're familiar with technology, which I assume most of you are, things aren't perfect at that point in time, and especially not at that stage of device development. And so we went out to our users though, and we had them using it, we had them putting it on, we had them trying it, we had them understanding what was going to work well, what wasn't, what things we had to change. And that's where we went back to the drawing board on a couple of things. We modified some things. For the most part, we were pretty bang on with our design and with our approach. There were, some slight modifications, as you'll see when we get to the device, things like the halo, the ring that actually holds the device on your head. Our first iteration of the design was actually a little too small for a lot of our users, and we had to go back to the drawing board and figure out how we were going to make it bigger without impacting the wires inside and things like that. So all that being said, July, eSight 4 came to market. We're live, we're out there. We've got a fairly significant number of users out there already, a lot of excitement around it. And really where the excitement from the community comes from is the fact that we listened to them. Their feedback was, we should do this, and we did it. We found a way to approach it and make it better. So some of the things that they talked about were acuity. Obviously, we need something that's going to help people see and read, see the television. Mobility has always been, one of the biggest factors in eSight's success, is the fact that we're not an immersive device, so we don't limit your peripheral vision. So we allow users to do pretty much anything that they could prior. Comfort was a big one. eSight 3 had amazing technology. The forehead strap, though, was uncomfortable after a little while. And I always described eSight 3 as being, a well-engineered device made by engineers for engineers. very easy to use if you were an engineer. Outside of that though, it took some learning. It took a lot of work to figure it out. Once you did, it was great. But these are really some of the things that we tried to calculate and figure out how we were going to improve upon them with eSight 4. And that brings me to this. Beyond sight, we built eSight 4 for life. Combining leading edge proprietary hardware and software, eSight empowers people living with visual impairment with best visual acuity, unmatched mobility, and ease of use. This is probably the one slide in this entire presentation that I read verbatim, just to make sure that I get it right. From a client, participant, patient, member, whatever you want to refer to the users of our device as, when we look at determining who's best for it, it's a pretty broad brush, 20/60 to 20/800. And we've even had success with vision that's even lower acuity than 20/800. Greater than 15 degrees field of view. Age 13 to 80 is, it's probably loose, and Sam can talk to this later when he's doing his demonstration, but Sam's worked with kids as young as I think 7. There's one that we're working with right now in Florida who's a 9-year-old. It's what it really boils down to is, do they have the ability to learn, the desire to do it, and that willingness. The eSight device isn't super compact. It's not really small, and so what happens is once you get under that age of, let's say 6 or 7, is the device becomes a little heavy for the neck muscles to kind of sustain. And so that's why, to be safe, we say 13 and up, but you can go lower. Of sound mind, just it helps with everything, especially the learning. And obviously we're a technology company, we're making technology, so we prefer our patients not be technical, too averse to technology. Hand dexterity, again, as you'll see when Sam does his segment, he's going to show you the remote control. You don't need the remote control. There's a phone app. There's also controls on the headset itself. But the hand dexterity is needed for any one of those options. And then tremors. And the reason tremors is kind of a critical one is that when you're wearing the device, if you do have any sort of a tremor or head shake, it impacts what you see. And as you'll see when Sam does his demonstration, if your head is going to shake because of a tremor, it's going to make what you're seeing a blurry, and it's going to impact how well the device works for you. And bear in mind, these are things that they're guidelines. The team at eSight has a fairly robust handbook that they go through when they're screening candidates to understand if they'll have success with our device or not. And we're happy to share that with you all, post-presentation. But these are just kind of general rule of thumb, not set in stone. Conditions, there's a list of them here, macular degeneration, Stargardt's, diabetic retinopathy, ocular albinism. It's not necessarily a note of what conditions we work best with. It's really about the fact that central vision loss is where we work best. If somebody has central vision loss, our device works best with them because what it does is it leverages that peripheral vision and kind of covers over that central vision component with that peripheral vision. And I'll talk a little bit more about this later on, but these are the conditions that are predominantly central vision loss. And fit those criteria that we talked about on the previous slide. So they work more frequently with these, but anybody who has a central vision loss is essentially a candidate. The study that I talked about earlier, clinically validated, FDA registered, that's us. We studied, we did a very robust study. And as I said, it was published in the Journal of Optometry and Vision Science. We worked with, some of the biggest names in in medicine, Johns Hopkins University, Kellogg Eye Center at the University of Michigan, Baskin Palmer, for the Canadian folks, UHN in Ontario. And what we did was we studied patients to understand just how much benefit they could get from the eSight device. And what we found through our study was, a consistent 7-line of improvement in acuity, 12-letter contrast improvement, and probably one of the biggest benefits was 100% mobility retention, and also significant improvements in facial recognition. And this is how we measure success for us when we do demonstrations with patients. We always measure acuity and facial recognition to understand those two things are two of the most critical factors in determining if a patient will have success with eSight. Through this study, we've obviously made some really great relationships with physicians and clinicians. Dr. Scott Gardner from the Lighthouse of the Blind, Dr. Dagnali and Dr. Wittich, all very big advocates for our device and what it can do for patients. And then of course our patients. Zara, who you saw on another slide here, is this amazing 10-year-old who lives in Toronto. We've had the pleasure of meeting her a couple of times pre-COVID, obviously. But she's an amazing, vibrant young lady who is, ready to take on the world, and especially now thanks to eSight. Gary is, the opposite end of the spectrum. Gary is, I think, 65 or 66 now. And the moments that Gary shares and talks about, what eSight has done for him, about seeing his grandkids and his wife, awe-inspiring type stuff. And Chris is a recent addition to the eSight family, having just started working with us back in, I guess, just before COVID. And again, having great success. So now eSight 4. How does it work? It really doesn't work that much different than eSight 3. There's a camera on the front of it, and Sam will talk a little bit about the features and functions kind of thing. But really, what it does is it stimulates the synaptic nerve, and it causes that synaptic nerve to overwork. And so what happens is the brain becomes overstimulated, and through that overstimulation, it almost takes that peripheral vision and covers over that central vision loss or gap. And pushes it over to give the perception that they've got complete vision. So from a technical standpoint, it captures video and displays it on 2 high-resolution screens that sit right in front of the eyes. And there's a computer in between those 2 things, and we've got a bunch of algorithms and really cool things that happen on those computer chips that give the person that's using it the ability to see better than they have in the past. On that note, I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen, and we're going to let Sam connect his. And Sam's going to walk us through the actual device. He's got one there with him, and he's going to connect us up to the internet and show us how it works. Sam?
Hello, everybody. I'm Sam. As York said earlier, I am the clinical account manager here at eSight, and I've been working on the client side of things for over a year. I'm very familiar with this device, and I am going to show you what this device is seeing in just a moment when I'm going to go ahead and put it on. I do want to make everyone aware there is a little bit of delay in the setup that we're going to do here. We are transmitting to a computer and then over the internet to Zoom. So what you see on the screen might be a little bit behind how I'm moving my head, but that's just because it's being relayed so many times. So York's been talking a lot about the device, but here it is. York has been talking a lot about comfort, and that is one of the biggest things that we were focusing on with this machine. You can see this halo goes around the head. It can be adjusted to heads of almost any sizes. As York was saying, I've worked with children as young as 7 who've been able to put this device on, and I've worked with clients who are in their 90s who've seen success with this machine. So it's really designed to fit any head and to work with a client of any age. The batteries are at the back here. These are, you can swap them out without turning the device off. You can see the light is on, so the device is turned on. You'll notice I can take this out. And so if I have another battery I want to switch to, I can switch that out without interrupting my activities too much. Now, I'm going to put this on, and you'll be able to see how I'm wearing it. There's a cross section, and my head here at the top of the halo meets right about at my hairline. And you can see the bioptic tilt in action here. I can tilt the device up and leave it up above my forehead. That way I can walk around more or less unencumbered without the screens in front of me. But if I'm at the grocery store, or if there's something lying on the ground in front of me and I want to know if I can step over it, I can tilt this down pretty easily and get a good look at what's going on around me. So I'm now going to share my screen here, and you should be able to see what the device is seeing. You'll get a glimpse of the office that I'm sitting in. So give me a moment to share this.
Well, there we go.
There we go. Okay. So you should now be able to see a glimpse of the office in front of me here. So I've got an eye chart on my computer. And with this device, I can see it a little bit clearer than I might have been able to see without the device. So as York was saying, we work with a wide variety of different types of vision loss. The folks with central vision loss are the ones that are going to get the most immediate benefit. Just putting on this device and looking ahead at an eye chart, they might be able to get a few lines of improvement. However, a lot of folks are going to benefit from us manipulating the image in a couple of different ways. And we have a few different ways of doing this, as York mentioned. There are some controls on the headset here, and there's also this controller. You'll notice that the buttons here are very brightly outlined, very high contrast from the rest of the remote. So you can see where your finger is in front of them. And the most important tool that most of our clients use is just simple magnification. So by pressing up on this, I can zoom in. And if you see here, I can make this bottom line very, very large. And so up here, I'm at 11x. I could keep going up to 18x, all the way up to 24. And so I can follow along this line and hopefully make out a bit more details than I might have with no magnification at all. You might notice that, as York was saying, some patients with a head tremor might find it a little hard to keep their head steady when they are at a higher level of magnification. You'll notice as I'm moving my head, the image is moving as well. Most clients will find ways to work around this and will learn to limit that head steadiness with practice. Now, we can also adjust the contrast using the left and right buttons on this controller. So we can make the screen appear brighter by increasing the contrast, and we can lower it back down to normal as well. This can be very useful if we're looking at images that are very faded. You're also going to notice as I move my head around it, the camera is going to adjust automatically based on if I'm looking out of a window or around the room. So the focus adjusts to my motions. If I look at my hand down here on the table, it's going to focus on that. I can even look at this phone number that is written here. That's my own phone number, written on this small sticky note, and I can zoom in and make out these numbers very, very large. For folks who don't want to carry this remote around or that have lost it, we also have controls up on the headset itself. I'll show you here. There is a small touchpad. And if I put my finger here and slide it forward, I can adjust the magnification and the contrast just by moving my finger along this touchpad. So if the batteries are dead in the controller, or if I've forgotten it in another room, this is an option. There's also an app that you can download to explore different control methods as well. So on top of that, we have a few other neat features. I can see the back of my coworker over here. I can zoom in a little bit and I can actually take a photo, and I could zoom in on that photo, and this way I can really get the detail of the color of his shirt without having to hold my head quite as steady as I did before. I'll show that again on an object a little bit closer. If I take a photo of this and zoom in, look how large I can make these letters. And there is image stabilization built in here as well, so I don't have to hold my head nearly as steady as I did before to keep these letters on screen. I also have options to change the colors on the image. So I could switch to black and white if a darker background is better for me. We also have a menu that we can go into where we can adjust settings. You can change the color of the menu. You can change how large the text is on the screen. You can upload photos and review photos that you've taken on this machine. You want to make sure that there are a wide variety of uses for this device and that those different features are accessible to everybody. On top of that, we have a flashlight built in case you're using the device in a darker area. Probably won't be able to notice a difference in this very bright office. And we can record videos here in case we're watching our kids play in a soccer tournament and we want to look at these videos later. So this is a brief overview on what it's like to wear the device and manipulate the controls a little bit. And I hope that provides a little bit of a glimpse into what it's like to wear this machine. And I'm happy to answer questions about the device a little bit further on in the presentation.
Sam, are you ready for a few questions now?
I think he's going to stop sharing. I have a couple more slides that we're going to just run through quickly, and then we can jump over to Q&A.
Sounds great.
Thanks, Kim. Okay, so as Sam, showed you a quick demonstration of the eSight, and you're seeing it as somebody who doesn't need it for what our patients do. It's awe-inspiring, at least for me, and I assume that's why a lot of us do what we do, is being able to see somebody with low vision put this on and do what they want to or what they haven't been able to is really what gets us going every day. So just the retail price is $5,950. It's lifetime software upgrades, 1-year warranty, 5 personalized coaching sessions. And I want to just talk a little bit about this. Is when I talked about it at the beginning and said, our sales and service and all of those support groups are within my realm. The coaching session is probably one of the things that I'm the proudest of. We have a group of low vision individuals who are part of our team. They're our coaches. They're our client success team. They are the group that onboards every single user that purchases an eSight. They've got what's called an eSkills program. This is a proficiency program that they take every user through, whether they're 7 or 87. They go through these 5 sessions that are they're fairly structured, and what needs to be covered or how it needs to be covered. But what they do is they do a really fantastic job of personalizing it to the user and personalizing it for their needs and their wants. Not everybody has the same objectives. We saw it earlier when we talked about Gary and Zara. Zara she's a 10-year-old grade 4 student. She wants to be able to see the board at the classroom. She wants to be able to go on Zoom and be able to see her teacher. Gary wants to be able to see his grandkids. Entirely different things, but the training that they need in order to do either one of those things is very similar. And so our group of coaches, they get on a call, be it video or phone, depending on what the user is what their user's preference is. And they walk them through the features and functionality that is going to get them to use the device for what they need it to do. And through this experience, they build a very personal relationship with that user, and they become that support person for the rest of that user's tenure with us. So, if you wake up one morning and your eSight doesn't turn on, or you've locked your trackpad, or you can't remember how to Zoom, you're not calling some random 1-800 number in some of the far reaches of the world. You're calling, Rosa, or you're calling Jeanette. For us here, we're calling Sam. And it's a real added benefit of what we do, because it's relatable. These folks know exactly what the person on the other end of that call is going through and how they've done it. And we also work very closely with, we submit insurance claims. We work with our veteran affairs facilities. We work with voc rehabs throughout the US. We have financing options, self-funded financing. We also have a team dedicated to working with fundraising, crowdfunding, and locally sourced government grants, community associations, and that sort of stuff in order to help people come up with the funding in order to purchase the device. And so as we jump into Q&A, just a couple of last quick little items is, Sam and I are here. We're happy to answer questions at the end of this. Our contact information is here, and I think it will be shared out after this session. Feel free to call or email. It doesn't matter, whether it's a minor question, whether you're not sure if somebody might be a candidate or not, or you want to get more information. We're here to work with you, and we know that each of the states are different and each of the state offices are different. So we're happy to get on a call or have a chat to figure out whether, we can work together, or whether it makes sense to, have somebody come out to your facility or not. So again, just reiterate, contact us. We also have a lot of other options available. This picture is actually Jeanette. She's one of our coaches. And this is, we've got training that we can do with your facility. We've got training that we can do with your users. We've got online tutorials. We've got user stories. We've got an abundance of marketing material as well that we're happy to share out. And then this is it. As I was talking about, the training sessions that we do with our coaches. We've got our eSight 4s that we can send out to your office. We can do some demonstrations. We can do it with the users or with staff. Again, we're flexible, and we're happy to go through whatever is gonna work for you in your office. So now I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and I think Kim is going to open up our question and answers, and Sam and I are gonna try to handle them all.
Mm-hmm. York and Sam, first I want to say thank you. That was really, really exciting, and we appreciate you taking time to show us the eSight. I'm not sure if you mentioned, is there a US distributor, or are sales directly from Toronto, or how does that work?
So our head office is in Toronto. We manufacture in Ottawa, but we also have a warehouse in Nashville with some employees there. And we have, I've got a couple of staff that are located throughout the US, and we've got some distributor agreements in a couple of different states as well. In Georgia, we've got Palmer Vision. In Oklahoma, we've got NanoPack. So there's a couple of varieties. we're happy to work with either one. If we happen to have a distributor in the area, we can make arrangements for them to come and pop by and see you. Or if we have staff in the area, we're welcome to do that as well.
That's very helpful. Thank you. How much does it weigh? I'm not sure if you mentioned that and we just missed that.
Interestingly enough, it actually weighs in at a pound. And I always hesitate in answering this question because I'll tell you, when eSight 3 was about 3.6 ounces, 3.7 ounces. And when we first started developing eSight 4, in those user groups, it was what users first started saying was they wanted something lighter. And so I was sitting in a meeting room one day and somebody said, the new device is going to weigh at a pound. And I almost fell out of my chair. And I was like, but our users said it needs to be lighter. And they're like, yeah, but York, you need to just wait until you try this. And so, 6 months goes by, I finally get a prototype and I put it on and it feels like it's less than 3 ounces. The way the weight distribution works and the way that the fitting happens and where it sits on the crown, as you saw with Sam wearing it, on that 45-degree angle, the weight distribution actually makes it feel significantly lighter than the old device. Mm-hmm. And as a testament to that, when I talked about, our user acceptance testing that we were doing back in February, one of the gentlemen that was in our user acceptance testing is a computer programmer. And he said that he didn't even realize that he had been wearing it until this 4th hour passed, and he only realized it then because his low battery warning came up. So a real testament to, perception versus reality. When they said lighter, it's not lighter, but it feels significantly lighter, and that's what we were after. And again, you can try for yourself. Don't make a decision just based on the actual weight number. You really have to try it on to understand how much different it is.
Yeah.
But that's great.
That makes sense. And since you brought it up. Oh.
I have a quick question, Kim.
Okay.
York, do you know if have you had any luck with like the Medicaid or developmental disability home and community-based waiver programs and maybe paying for the device?
Medicare, Medicaid is, we've not gotten in there yet. It's mostly we've got a couple of PPO agreements that we have set up. And then some of the, United Healthcare has a supplemental plan that we're part of for some of the employer programs or employer coverages that it has. And this is our first year of really focusing in on the insurance side of the business. So, and it's only within the past probably 3 months that we've really started to submit a lot of claims. And so we're kind of trying it to see how we can, get some claims denied and go back and adjudicate them and challenge them or go in for appeals, that sort of stuff. So haven't had a lot of success, or any success actually, I should say, with Medicare, Medicaid yet.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, that's helpful. So you had mentioned earlier when we were talking about the weight, about the only reason why he realized he was wearing it was because he got a low battery warning. What is the typical battery life?
I'm going to quote our engineers and say it's about 2.5 to 3 hours each. Sam uses his a lot more than I do mine, so he can confirm.
Yeah, that's more or less accurate. Depending on what you're using the device for, you can get a bit more or a bit less than that. For example, for a patient that is missing one eye or has no vision in one eye, you can actually turn off one of the screens and that might extend the battery life a little bit. Alternatively, if you are sharing the video like I was doing, that's going to burn through the battery a lot quicker. So it depends on the activities that you're using it for, but a good estimate is between 2 and 3 hours.
So, and that's assuming that you're keeping it going nonstop. Is it possible to turn it off, but just flip up the visor and only use it? Okay.
If you can put the device into sleep mode, which is something that a lot of our longtime users do. For example, if you're taking it to the grocery store, you might not necessarily need it while you're walking up and down the aisles, and you don't need the device to be on while it's just up in front of your forehead. So you'll walk around, you'll keep it in sleep mode, and then when you grab a can off the shelf and you want to make sure you've picked up the right type of beans or corn, then you take the device out of sleep mode. It takes 1 second for it to come out of sleep mode. And there you go. You're looking at the item that you've picked up through the device. Then you put it back in sleep mode, flip it up, and you're good to go. You can make the device last for probably up to 6 hours if you're just using it sporadically like that.
That's good to know. So there was a question earlier when you were doing your demonstration, Sam, and it was there was a little bit of jiggling, especially in the beginning. Was that due to projecting it through Zoom, or?
I would guess that the projecting it through Zoom probably has exacerbated it a little bit. The more magnification that you're going to use, if you're not taking a photo, the more you're going to notice any subtle movements that your head makes. So as I mentioned, this is something that might take a little bit of practice. Once you've used the device a lot more, you can keep your head a bit steadier. But most clients' day-to-day usage, they're not going to go further probably than like 3 or 4 times magnification. Now, if we're reading, we're going to go up a whole lot further than that. But while we're reading, we're probably not moving our head quite as much as when we're walking around.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to jump in on that, the prior conversation with regards to the batteries. We actually ship eSight with 2 fully charged batteries and the internal battery. So you can actually get through, somewhere between, 5 to 6 hours out of a package as you receive it.
Yeah, that's a great point, York. And it takes a little less than 2 hours to fully charge a battery too. So if you're at home, as soon as you wear through one of the batteries, you can likely swap it out with the other. And by the time you've drained one, the other should be fully charged.
Great, thank you. There was just a comment, it wasn't a question, about some sources have a cutoff for over 5,000 for funding sources, and they were using the AAC device. So that is something that some folks will be considering. I'm going to just open it up. I don't see any other questions at the moment, but I'm going to ask folks if they do have questions to take a minute now and put it in the chat box.
I do see one question. Somebody asked, does using sunlight drain the battery faster? No, as far as I'm aware, it does not. If anything, it might last a little bit longer in a brighter area because no matter where you're looking, the device is going to be set to the highest exposure settings. If you're in an area where the light is changing a lot more rapidly, that's going to change wear the battery a bit more, since it's adjusting automatically.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Are there any other, oops, here comes one. Oh, and there was a question about, are there any discounts for AT programs? And I do not know that.
Yeah, so we don't have necessarily a discount for AT programs. It's more if you're interested in learning more and we want to see if we can, get a device on site, train you and your staff up, or do some demos for some clients and members, reach out to us. As Sam and I indicated, we're here to support you and work with you. We don't have a program where we sell demonstration devices out to facilities. Our focus is more on creating partnerships and working with facilities to help patients. So we're not going to say, yeah, you know what, you can buy these at X% discount. What we'd rather do is work with you to help people.
Thank you.
And
Are there, oops, it looks like another question perhaps.
Oh, I'm just going to, while we're waiting for another question, I just wanted to mention that the email address for the Survey Monkey for the session is in the chat, and you'll also get an email for all the presenters, for all the participants. So please fill that out. And of course, one of the other things we like to know is what other topics that that you'd like to see. This video, this webinar has been recorded, so within a few days we'll have it up on our website in the Demo Alone Community of Practice, and it'll also be on our AT3 YouTube channel. And do you have any other questions, Kim?
No, I'm not seeing any at this time, Marty. Last call. Oh, did something just come up? Let's see. I think we've reached the end of the questions, but we do have your contact information, so I'm sure folks may just want to reach out to you directly rather than ask the questions now. So
That's perfect, and we're available to chat, whether you want to email or phone. We're happy to figure out how we can work together to help people out.
Sounds great. We really appreciate you, York and Samuel, and appreciate your time and the information you provided today. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
And thanks for everyone for participating, and we hope you have a fantastic afternoon, and we will see you later.
Thanks.
take
See ya.
care, everyone. Stay safe.